and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and thank you all, as always, for being here with me today. And today we are talking about failing. We're talking about failure, and for various reasons. But as always, Spirit brings up topics for me that relate somehow because either we're going through it as a family, or in business, or in the world, or somehow there's an experience in it that allows for this opportunity to share. And today, there was such a push to talk about failure and the beauty of it. The absolute beauty and necessity of failure and experiences of failing in our earthly lives. We literally need to understand what it's like to fail, and there's so many reasons why this is of benefit. But what we have to do first to see it as a benefit is to undo conditioning that we have connected to failure. So the idea from Spirit, and this was coming from the 3 Guides of the Light as I was chatting with them through the weekend, is embracing what we consider failures, but taking off the whole stinky aroma, the energetic aroma attached to it. Because if we could take off that stink, and honestly, that's how they were referring to it, so I could really understand. If we can take off that, then we can start to see the value that it is. And I know you guys all know this inherently. This isn't a new concept that failure teaches us great things. But although we know it, a lot of us don't seem to truly embrace it. And I can catch myself doing that sometimes. Like, yes, I could talk to somebody else about embracing their failures, and that's no problem. But then if I'm doing something in which I'm failing to achieve what I desire to achieve, then I could sit there and beat myself up, just as you guys could, but you're so quick to tell somebody else that it's okay to fail. So the whole intent of this podcast today is to take this information and put it on yourself. Put it on like you're trying on an outfit or a pair of sunglasses. Like, how does this resonate for you personally, not others? Because we each have a slightly different view of what failure is, and those that can embrace it as simply a learning opportunity have embraced the wizardry of it, is kind of what they're showing me right now. There's a power in it. Because what failure inherently lets us do is it allows us to stop and regroup. And sometimes those failures happen in a way where it forces us to stop and regroup because everything has fallen apart. Other times we can catch what is happening and we can stand back and see what we can do again. So the interesting thing too with failure is until we can see it as an opportunity to regroup and try again, we're going to keep getting caught up in the loop. And sometimes that loop will even lead us to not wanting to do something in the first place. So I can take my daughter as an example in this. If we're working on coloring something or doing a piece of art, oftentimes I find right now, because she doesn't want to fail at anything, she's very, although she's very this open, beautiful, spiritual energy to me, she also has this very linear side where she loves organization and understanding and process and lists, right? So then when we go to tackle a piece of art, in which I always encourage her to simply create, let's create something. Unless she can make the first line perfect, she stops herself right there. And she doesn't see that the beauty of the piece of art is in the creating. And we talk about that all the time. It's about, if you don't like the way that line went because of what you thought it would be, well, now that it is that, what are your options? You can either erase it if you can, or keep going and see what it becomes. And it's the embracing what it becomes, because you were forced to stand back and see that that line didn't go where you wanted. But now where can it go because of that? And now sometimes the line of where it can go can become one of the most beautiful things that you wouldn't have thought to add. And so this is the concept that Spirit is talking about, because when we can see it as a beautiful opportunity to adjust our course or regroup or reassess everything, we can find a freedom in it. And it's a freedom in that experience which allows us to embrace it instead of having all the energies that come in of shame and guilt and all of this. We can say, wait a minute, I failed at this because something is not aligning, something is not ready. What can I shift and change to make this align or move in a different direction? And this is a really powerful lesson for us, because we keep having this ideal of perfection. And even though many of us, again, say we don't idealize perfection, we're totally open and grounded, but there's these like deep-rooted aspects in everybody that we're still desiring to reach this concept of perfection, whether that be with self, whether that be with the environment that we're in. If only it was summer, everything would be fine. You know, if only I could lose these 5, 10, 50 pounds, everything would be fine. If only I could be here and there and there, everything would be fine. It's this ideal state of perfection. But in order to get to perfection, we need to be willing to embrace what is. We need to be willing to embrace the failures that come with reaching perfection. And the key point in this is that when we can embrace our failures, we inherently are embracing an energetic aspect of perfection, everything being as it is, to learn and to choose in that moment. Because when we embrace failures, then no longer are we needing to strive for this perfected state. We realize that it simply is in the experience, whether your experience is great and awesome and aligned and flowing, or kicking us up and knocking us down and getting us stuck in the mud where we feel trapped or frustrated. That in itself can be considered a state of perfection, because what it's doing is allowing, again, you to regroup, become better aligned, learn something new, and be better because of it. So when we can start to rewrite the energies around these words, that is a key component as well. So if we undo the societal views of failure, and we undo the societal views of perfection, then we are starting to live in this new 5D, awakened, ascended, understanding, compassionate state of acceptance, harmony, peace, any of those words. And think about what life is at that point. At that point, no matter what's happening, and yes, of course, I know there's always extremes, right? So I'm talking about the generalized idea. But for the most part, whatever is happening, you can view it from a place of, this is okay, or I would like to change it this way, or I would like to do this, instead of creating a stress response in the body. Instead of creating a feeling of deficit in your body or your energy, you're then creating a state of wholeness. And the root of all of this comes back to a feeling of wholeness in what we could be considered having as a void. When we have a void in our energy, there's always a desire to fill, to fix, to any of those kinds of things. But when we feel that wholeness within, anything that happens around is but an experience of things, of life, of growing, of tumbling, of any of those things. So something for you guys to ponder today. Spirit wanted to bring that through and to just really help you guys reflect on where you might find you're still limited in those ways. Because again, we're so very layered, each and every one of us. You may be completely free from concepts of failure and perfection in terms of your body. You might feel like your body's great and you're good to go. But you might find that you're just kind of triggered or have this nagging feeling of, failure or perfection relating to, say, perhaps where you live, or what you do for a job, or anything like that, how you're parenting your kids, how you name it. Look at where or which level that is affecting you at and see what you can do about it, see what you can shift. Because that's going to open your sense of freedom. And again, bring you back to that 5D aspect of consciousness. And it's in that 5D aspect of consciousness that you really harness the power of being a creator. And that's what it's all about. Co-creating on this planet the world in which you wish to live in, based on the perspective that you have. And it's not a perspective of ignorance, but rather a perspective of opened consciousness, awareness of all sides, awareness of the duality, and basically releasing the duality and embracing it into unity because you understand all sides. So, something to ponder. I hope you guys can take that in and have it help you kind of release anything that's holding you back. Hope you have a good week.